So this one is a follow-up to the previous one. What's the rationale behind the Dusthana houses, the 6th, 8th, and the 12th? Why do these houses have negative qualities? The reason that's the case is because we have a real difficulty with resilience. And what does the 6th house represent? Hard work, overcoming obstacles. Most people don't like that. They want things just given to them. The 8th house, what does it represent? Sudden breaks and changes, the unknown, things which are surprising. Most people don't like that. What does the 12th house represent? Loss, things dissolving. The 12th house really is a house of ending karmas. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. However, if you are really attached to your relationships and you define yourself through your relationships and they have a 12th house energy, which shows in this lifetime that part of what you are meant to experience as a spiritual being in this world is the resolution and the dissolution of your karmas in regards to relationships, you're going to have a hard time with it and you're not going to like it. So again, going back to the idea of astrology being a spiritual science, well, let's pretend for a moment that we were all yogis. We were all practicing meditation. We were all studying the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. We were all learning from an enlightened master. Well, that enlightened master is going to make you get up and meditate every morning, whether you like it or not. You're going to get up and you're going to do the practice. And if you're a yogi and you love your master and you want to know what he knows or she knows, then you say, put me through it. It's hard, but I'm willing to endure it. And what happens as you go through the discipline of the 6th house, overcoming the obstacles, you realize, oh, I'm actually more resilient than I thought. And obstacles come and you say, no big deal. and you plow through them, or you step over them, or you find a way around them. The same thing, you can see this in athletes or warriors or people in professions like police and firefighters and so on. You know, my sister, she's an athlete. She's got a really strong 6th house. When she comes up against an obstacle, she doesn't say, oh, no, I don't want an obstacle. She says, that's going to make me stronger. That's going to challenge me. That's going to make me a better athlete. So really, the reason that these houses have such negative qualities isn't because they're negative. It's because we as human beings don't want to accept and appreciate all the possibilities that life has to offer. And that is hard to do when we don't have a grounding in something greater, a religious tradition or a spiritual tradition. Because the 8th house, whether you've got a prominent 8th house or not, you're still going to experience death. You're still going to experience sudden breaks and changes. One way or the other, it's going to happen because you're a human being. And the better supported your 8th house, the easier it is for you to roll with those punches. The easier it is for you to just say, all right, well, that's life. I'm glad I got through that one, you know, and you grow from it. You're okay with uncertainty because nothing is really certain. And then of course, with the 12th house, when you have a life that's focused on, say, spiritual growth, that the purpose of you being here as an embodied being is to dissolve your karmas, which means you're going to let go of things. You're going to let go of everything eventually. So there really shouldn't be negative qualities with these Dusthana houses. They are as much a part of life as everything else. In order for my garden to grow, I have to go till up the dirt and rip out all the weeds. I have to overcome that obstacle, and I have to cause death and mayhem to all the weeds in the garden so that I can grow something. And then, of course, those plants, I have to eat the fruits of those plants, and it dies away, and that karma is done, 12th house, and then the cycle begins again. First house comes back in, and we keep on going. So this is a hard one from the perspective as astrologers, because you as astrologers are going to be dealing with people with an average consciousness. And by average, I mean within the Dwapara Yuga, where there is a focus on things and a focus on supporting one as an individual in a more egotistical or egocentric way. Now, if you take astrology and you study it for the purpose of spiritual growth, you're going to know that these houses are wonderful houses. In fact, there are numerous yogas that when there's an emphasis to 6th, 8th, and 12th, it says this person's going to be an accomplished yogi. When people see their chart, they don't want to say, oh, great, I'm going to be an accomplished yogi. I mean, some people do. But most people say, when am I going to get my car? When's my grandchildren going to be born? Those kinds of things. So it's up to you as astrologers and students of astrology to find a way to understand these houses, ideally not negatively, because they're not, but you do have to understand why they are seen that way by most people. And I encourage you to consider that telling someone, oh, you've got a strong 6th house, you're going to have all kinds of diseases, which are going to make you realize that you're not your body. Good for you. You're not going to do that because most people can't handle that kind of a thing. Every now and then you might run across a client who is dealing with a very severe health issue and they have a very deep spiritual focus. And then you can speak to them in that way. And ideally they will understand and hear it. But this kind of question really illustrates the difference between the current state of astrology and what astrology is really supposed to be like. And even in my own life, I have a strong emphasis towards 12th house issues, specifically in regards to relationships. Well, many of you know, my wife passed away several years ago, and it was the hardest thing I ever went through, but it was also the most spiritualizing thing I ever went through. And halfway between the time where she was told none of the treatments were going to work anymore, and she died, oddly enough, what happened? I was sitting in meditation, and in my mind, it just came to me. It was just a feeling. The karma between the two of you is done. It was as like I knew I did it, meaning I participated in such a way that karma was able to dissolve. And I didn't like that, but when I paid attention to the deeper aspect of my consciousness, there was a sense of, yeah, this is what was supposed to happen. And she had her own positive experience with death, which was actually very positive. And I had to struggle with it because I'm still here. But when I paid attention, the karma that was indicated in my chart for this situation, the dissolution of that kind of relationship, the releasing of that kind of attachment to that kind of karma, it played out exactly the way my chart indicated. So, if you had told me that before I was ready to hear it, you as the astrologer, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, you're crazy. This is ridiculous. The 12th house is a horrible house. So you always have to remember, or you have to have some kind of sensitivity to the person that you're interacting with. And sometimes you might just have to speak to them on a very ordinary level about the 6th, 8th, and 12th house, just like every other astrologer does. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't force your spirituality or your larger mindset, I suppose, on other people. Just do your best. Anyway, next question.